in the Communist Manifesto, there is a very brief explanation of what socialism is. And I am going to read it to you, and we are going to talk about this because there's so much confusion about what socialism is. So many misconceptions. I said many times, I learned in school that communism is that everyone gets paid the same wage no matter how hard they work. Wrong. Communism is not 100% equality of incomes. You know, I've also heard people say communism is when the government does it, right? If the government's involved, that's communism. Wrong. Every country in the world has a government. Every government taxes people. Every government, you know, has a post office or carries out at least some basic functions. That's wrong. All right? But this is what the Communist Manifesto says about what the communist revolution is. So I'm going to read it to you because there seems to be so much confusion about this. And I'm going to read it to you, and you're going to see this is just like 2 sentences from the Communist Manifesto. And this blows away Breadtube. All of Breadtube should, like, go away and shut the hell up after I read this sentence. All right. As we have seen, the first step in the revolution by the working class is to raise the proletariat to the position of the ruling class to win the battle for democracy. Then the next sentence, the important part. The proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest by degree all capital from the bourgeoisie and centralize all instruments of production in the hands of the state. The proletariat organizes the ruling class and to increase total productive forces as rapidly as possible. So Breadtube should die. I mean, should just go away now. I mean, they should just go away at this point. Right? So it says here, the proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest by degree all capital from the bourgeoisie and centralize all instruments of production into the hands of the state. Now, what does the state mean? The state means the government, right? It means the armed body of men with a legitimacy of armed force. So when all over Breadtube, you see these people say, Marx wasn't a statist. Marx never wanted the government to be involved in anything. Marx did not believe in state involvement. We're against state socialism too. Well, if Marx was against government involvement and he was against the state being involved, why did he write, centralize all instruments of production into the hands of the state? I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like if you think Marx, Marx just said, you and your friends should open a pencil factory where everyone has a fair share. Marx never wanted the government. That's evil Stalinism. Oh, Marx wanted just everyone to start a hippy-dippy co-op in the woods and have a pottery factory and share the profits. Wrong. Centralize all instruments of production into the hands of the state. So Breadtube, when they say Marx was not a statist, which is a very common belief, Marx did not believe in the state, Marx did not want the government to be involved. Wrong. Wrong, okay? You can say you don't want that, and you're free to think that you don't want the government involved. That's your business. But don't say that Marx didn't want the government involved. He very clearly wanted the government involved. Next, right? The proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest by degree all capital from the bourgeoisie. Now, what does by degree mean? It means not all at once. By degree. Meaning that there can be a market sector in a socialist society. It doesn't say the proletariat will use its supremacy to immediately seize all capital into the hands of the state. No. It says it will centralize all instruments of production in the hands of the state, meaning they'll be directed by the state. And it says by degree, all capital will be wrested from the bourgeoisie by degree, meaning it is a gradual process, meaning that at some points it may be necessary to have a big market sector, at other points it may be necessary to have everything run by the state, but it does not say the proletariat, all things, everything in a socialist society must be government owned all the time. So people who say Vietnam's not socialist, China's not socialist, Cuba's not socialist because they all have a market sector, well, they're wrong. They are all totally 100% wrong, right? Next, right? The proletariat organized as the ruling class and to increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. What does increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible mean? Now, does that mean at that point we make sure that everyone is poor and it's fair? Right? Libertarians say this all the time, right? Socialism is about making everyone equally poor. What does increase the total productive forces as rapidly? That doesn't mean make people poorer. And this is a big thing among Breadtube and the synthetic left also. Oh, people have too much stuff, right? We need to go get poorer, right? We need to lower consumption to help Mother Earth. People need to stop having children because there's too many people in the world. No. After all instruments of production are in the hands of the state, they increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. Right? So we have the proletariat using its political supremacy, taking control of the government, and then seizing by degree capital, economic centers from the bourgeoisie, by degree, meaning as necessary, as they want to, and centralizing, that's the important line, centralizing all instruments of production in the hands of the state, meaning that even if there's private corporations, they still must do as the state central plan says, and to increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible, meaning the state at the center of the economy organizes the economy to grow and expand and make everyone as wealthy as possible, as quickly as possible, to increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. So not abolish billionaires, right? What is abolish billionaires? It's a big thing, right? AOC, Bernie, abolish billionaires, right? No, it's not about making people poor. It's not about making sure no one can ever be as wealthy as a billionaire is in 2020. It's about increasing the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. This sentence I just read to you, where Karl Marx explains the purpose of the communist revolution, has China written all over it. That is China. The proletariat, the proletarian party, the Chinese Communist Party, took control of the state in 1949, and they have wrested by degree all capital from the bourgeoisie, meaning sometimes they've had a totally nationalized economy. Now they have more of a market sector. However, they have centralized all instruments of production in the hands of the state, meaning that even private corporations must do what the Chinese state central planners, what the 5-year plan, what the Communist Party wants done. Right? And what has China done? They have increased the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. They have turned China into the second largest economy in the world. They have raised 800 million people out of poverty, right? By centralizing the instruments of production in the hands of the state, they have then raised the productive forces as rapidly as possible. So anyone who says China is not socialist needs to just read this sentence, right? Maybe you don't think that's what socialism is, but what Marx said socialism is, China is 100% in compliance with. The proletariat used its political supremacy, i.e. the Communist Party, the Workers' Party, took control of the state. It wrested by degree all capital, meaning that they seized some businesses. They didn't seize others, but they made a decision. They've centralized all instruments of production in the hands of the state, not worker cooperatives, but in the hands of the state, right? Marx wasn't a statist, Caleb. Marx didn't believe in the government doing anything. Well, in the hands of the state, that's pretty clear. And they then increased the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. No. They didn't make everyone equal. No, they didn't. They didn't increase. Their goal was not to decrease income inequality and get money out of politics. Not Rachel Maddow, Karl Marx. Right now, the next sentence. The next paragraph. He talks about. He says, of course, in the beginning, this can be effected except by despotic inroads on the rights of property. Right, meaning government taking property. By means of measures, therefore, which appear economically insufficient and untenable, but which, in the course of the movement, outstrip themselves, necessitating further inroads upon the old social order, and are unavoidable as a means of entirely revolutionizing the mode of production. And then he says this sentence. Again, another sentence that people just can't comprehend. He says, quote, "These measures will, of course, be different in different countries." How many times I've been said, I want socialism with American characteristics. That's racist! You're racist! You want to... These measures will, of course, be different in different countries, meaning the way they do it in Russia is not going to be the way they do it in China. The way they do it in Cuba is not going to be the way they do it in China. The way that they do it in Venezuela is not going to be the same way they do it in Cuba. And the way we do it in the United States is going to be unique. These measures, of course, will be different in different countries. So, yes, the United States does have a unique road towards socialism. It's going to be different in different countries. So that is Marx. And then he says, nevertheless, in most advanced countries, the following will generally be applicable. And he lists 10 planks, which were in 1848 in Europe. Most countries, these were reasonable demands. I'm not going to go over them. But basically, these demands were what a lot of Germans wanted in 1848 in Germany, and it was applied to European countries. Now, I don't know how people can look at what I just read and say China's not socialist. I don't know how people can look at what I just read and say Marx didn't believe in the government doing anything. I don't know how anybody can look at what I just read and say that, oh, it's offensive to talk about socialism with American characteristics. It's offensive to say that the United States has a unique road to socialism. I don't know how anyone can look at what I just said and said Marx wanted everyone to be poorer. I don't know how anyone can look at what I just said and said the goal is to make sure that no one is a billionaire or no one lives as a billionaire currently lives. I'm sorry, he lays it all out there. It's all there. But this is just, it's a few paragraphs. It's a Communist Manifesto.